I never imagined cleaning for a meal would lead to a heartbreaking love story. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It started as any other bleak Tuesday, the sky heavy with storm clouds like a thick gray blanket. I found myself at the community center, my hands trembling as I wiped dust from tables. The scent of stale coffee hung in the air. I had done this many times before, all for a simple meal, a few hours of work for a plate of spaghetti. But today felt different. It felt ominous. I was battling my fears, pushing back the memories of my father's disappointed eyes when I told him I couldn't pay the bills anymore. He had lost his job. I had lost hope. The thought constricted my chest, a weight I couldn't shake. As I worked, I felt invisible. My mind drifted, thoughts swirling around, like clouds racing in a tempest, threatening to unleash their wrath. Then I heard Ida's shuffling sound coming from the back room. My heart raced. Curiosity tugged at me, pulling me toward the door. Was someone else here? The door creaked open slowly, revealing a dimly lit room filled with shadows. I could barely make out a figure. Against the pale light, a man stood with his back to me, oddly familiar yet completely foreign. He turned suddenly, catching me off guard. His eyes were captivating, piercing through the gloom like two glowing embers in a dark forest. I felt a jolt. There it was, the magnetic pull, an electric connection sparking in the silence. I didn't mean to intrude, I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. His gaze held me captive, an unspoken question swirling between us. I thought I was alone, he responded, his voice soft but tremulous, the sound sending waves of goosebumps over my skin. There was something hauntingly beautiful about his pain, his existence nagged at a dormant space in my heart. As we spoke, I learned he was cleaning out his late grandmother's apartment. Memories lingered in every corner, and I could see the agony in his creased brow as he struggled against the weight of nostalgia. He was carrying heartbreak with him, just like me. It felt surreal, two lonely souls colliding in a forgotten backroom, momentarily sharing the burdens life had bestowed upon us. But then, a sudden crash echoed from the other room, the sound shattering the fragile moment we shared. I jumped back, dread pooling in my stomach. Could this be related to the whispers I had heard about ominous changes at the center? People were murmuring about secret meetings, mismanaged funds, rumors thick like fog. Stay here, he said abruptly, eyes darting toward the noise. Was it determination in his voice or fear? Either way, the urgency in his tone sent a chill racing down my spine. I nodded, my heart thumping loudly in my chest. As he stepped towards the door, I felt the air between us shift. A potent chemistry, raw and unfurling, clashed against uncertainties. Wait! I called out, but all that emerged was a whisper. He turned back, his silhouette breathing down on me like a looming question. I could feel an unnameable bond pulling us together, and yet, an unseen wall separating us. What was the truth lurking in this building, beneath the roar of uncertainty? And what will happen when the secrets come crashing down? My breath hitched. And in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash the like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The clang of metal against metal echoed through the corridor as I pressed my ear against the door, heart pounding in rhythm with the chaotic sounds coming from the other side. The hollow thuds were enough to set my insides twisting, an echo of unease reverberating in my gut. I resisted the overwhelming urge to pull away and shut my eyes against the horror I imagined. The other man, the one who had grounded me for those fleeting seconds, had stepped into a storm, and I felt rooted in place, uncertain of my next move. Just as I gathered the courage to follow him, the door flung open with an almost violent force. A gust of wind seemed to rush in, and there he stood, eyes wide, breathless. "To think they're closing the center," he said, words tumbling out like loose bricks. The weight of his statement crashed over me, a tidal wave of dread mixed with disbelief. There was no precedent for a world where this community space, the only haven many of us had, could cease to exist. The whispers I had previously dismissed as mere gossip now solidified into an ominous truth. I felt my knees weaken. What do you mean? I managed to breathe out, my voice just a shimmer of clarity amid the chaos. There was a meeting, he said, his brows knitting together in concern. It's all about budget cuts, mismanagement. Andy overheard them talking about evictions. They're planning to close the center down by the end of the month. I felt the ground beneath my feet falter. The thought of losing not just the meal but the fragile community that had sprung up around the center twisted like a knife in my chest. I thought of the faces, the elderly women who sought warmth and laughter, the children whose eyes sparkled at the mere thought of spaghetti night, and the countless lost souls clinging to fleeting connections. People won't know where to go, I whispered, collapsing against the wall, the realization sweeping through me like cold water. It dawned on me that his expression mirrored my own despair. What do we do? I asked, clutching at my heart, feeling its weight of despair intensified. I looked into his eyes, searching for answers but instead finding only a reflection of my own hopelessness. Just then, amidst the strain, a flicker of determination illuminated his face. We fight for it. We can't let this place close. We can rally everyone together, bring them back. This, he gestured around us, is more than just a building. It's a community. It's home to so many. His words sank in, filling the hollow ache with a tentative sense of purpose. Maybe we could reach the others, inspire them, pull them together in resistance. But how? I frowned, the question lingering heavy amidst the sudden hope. It's not like we have the power to change their minds. We start small, he replied, his shoulders relaxing a fraction, vibrant hope igniting behind the depths of his gaze. We can craft a petition. Organize a meeting, get everyone's stories out there, show just how much this center means to all of us. We can make a difference. As we brainstormed ideas, it felt surreal how quickly we had crossed from strangers to allies bound by urgency and purpose. The weight of expectation on my shoulders shifted, lending me strength. Hope loomed, fragile yet fierce, igniting courage in a landscape that had become fogged with despair. Despite storm clouds swirling above us, the warmth of connection radiated in this moment, illuminating the darkness. How easy it was to forecast desperation at every turn, yet here we were, constructing dreams from the shards of impending loss, pushing against the winds that sought to sweep us away. But just as I leaned into this newfound optimism, the shadows resumed their creeping ascent. The door pushed open behind us, and a figure emerged from the very depths of despair we were daring to confront. Tall and looming, the center's director stepped into the doorway, flanked by two others, their faces stern and unyielding. I felt ice prickling beneath my skin, a sudden hush wrapping around us, a chilling reminder that the fight we were preparing for was already looming, and this confrontation could change everything. Don't get your hopes up, the director said flatly, his eyes narrowing like a predatory stare. Your pleas won't change the inevitable. In that instant, the ground shifted beneath our feet once more, leaving us teetering on the edge of hope and an impending storm. My heart raced, pulse echoing audibly in my ears as the reality of what lay ahead grew unbearably clear. Would we rise together against the darkness creeping closer, or would despair snuff out the fragile light we'd just ignited? The uncertainty loomed heavy, and I realized this wasn't just about saving a community center, it was about holding on to the possibility of human connection, the longing for belonging. What could happen if we failed? The air in the corridor thickened with tension, the director's cold words hanging between us like heavy fog. My stomach twisted, a mix of indignation and fear rising within me. How could he stand there, so confidently, dismissing everything we were fighting for? I struggled to keep my voice steady as I replied, "You don't understand. This place is more than just a building. These people need it." He leaned forward slightly, an almost predatory glint in his eyes. Desperation doesn't change the numbers on a spreadsheet, he said, his tone dripping with condescension. The words echoed in my mind, relentlessly gnawing at my resolve. But I wasn't about to back down. You can't just disregard lives. I shot back, anger buzzing beneath my skin. For a moment, I could see doubt flicker in his expression, but it vanished just as quickly, swallowed by a mask of indifference. Enough of this trifling talk, he snapped, waving his hand dismissively. You have until the end of this week to gather your petition or prepare for an inevitable conclusion. Don't waste your energy with that. He turned and exited, his shadow dragging along the walls like a suffocating blanket. My heart beat wildly, the disappointment I felt for both our plight and for myself pressing heavily against my chest. The reality of our situation crashed down again, and I turned to face my newfound ally, who looked equally shaken. "Did you see that?" he asked, his breath coming out in short bursts. He wasn't even listening. I nodded, the weight of his words anchoring my thoughts. "But we can't just give up. There are still people who believe in this place, and we can show them why it matters. Maybe we can reach the community board directly, or we could think about getting the local news involved," he interrupted, a flicker of excitement weaving through his voice. "People will listen to stories that resonate. We could invite them to see this place for themselves." His passion felt like a lifeline against the tide of hopelessness. "Yes. We can craft our narratives, talk about the connections made here. Well, share their stories. Remind them of what it means to belong." As we rushed to gather our thoughts and ideas, the gravity of our task bore down on us, but this time it felt like a shared burden rather than an insurmountable obstacle. We began to draft our plans, inspired by the small victories we hoped to achieve. Every connection we made felt like an ember in the encroaching night, illuminating our way forward. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I spotted an older woman sitting alone in the corner, her gnarled hands resting in her lap, her expression hollow. With a surge of urgency, I approached her, my heart aching to connect. "Hi, Miss Thompson. We're trying to save the center, and would love to hear your story." She looked up slowly, her eyes reflecting years of trouble. "I've told my share of stories, dear," she murmured, her voice a soft murmur, like wind rustling through withering leaves. "But no one listens anymore." "But we will," I urged, kneeling beside her. "We need to show them how much this place means to all of us. Your story can inspire others. The laughter, the journeys, the community. Please help us." Her gaze pierced through the fog of despair, a flicker of warmth igniting just behind her eyes. "My late husband used to bring me here every Thursday for bingo. He'd always win well, that's how he charmed me," she reminisced, a smile ghosting her lips, sadness tangled in the edges. I sat beside her patiently, encouraging her to share. As she spoke, a cacophony of memories spilled forth, shared meals dimly lit by flickering candles, laughter rising above the chatter, a sense of belonging that had defined her years. With every word, it felt as if the air grew lighter, suspended in hope, as others began to gather around, drawn in by the sound of her voice. We continued to collect stories, stitching together a tapestry of lives interconnected by this singular place. I could feel fragments of my own life merging with theirs, each smile we shared, each heartfelt moment shining like stars igniting the night sky. But as hope thrummed in our collective pulse, a sudden commotion near the entrance caught my attention. A group of men, angry, shouting, pictures of rage, stormed towards the center, clutching signs that read "Close it for good." My heart dropped as they barreled through the doors. "Are you serious?" one of them hollered, snatching a flyer from my hand, his eyes flames of defiance. "This place is a waste. You think a few sad stories will keep you afloat? It's time to let go." Panic fluttered through me, the fragile resolve we had built threatened to unravel in an instant. My ally looked at me, eyes wide with uncertainty, and I braced myself for what was about to unfold. The fight wasn't just a battle for the center anymore, it was now an all-out war for our very spirits. Could we hold on to the light woven within our stories, or would darkness extinguish our fire in an instant? The stakes had never felt higher. This was no longer just about community, it was about love, connection, and survival, and I was terrified of what we might lose. The uproar echoed through the center, drowning out the warmth of the stories we had just begun to share. I watched, paralyzed, as the group pushed ahead, relentless like a storm. The signs they carried felt like knives, pointed and accusatory, each word stinging deeper than the last. My heart raced, fear coiling around my throat like a tight noose. "Get out!" one of the men shouted, and the sound struck me like a physical blow. "You're nothing. Your stories mean nothing. This place should be destroyed." I turned to my ally, desperation flooding my words. "We can't let them take this from us. We need to stand together." With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I drew a deep breath. As much as I dreaded it, the confrontation felt inevitable. I stepped forward, my fists clenched tightly by my sides, the warmth of Ms. Thompson's fragile hope still flickering in my chest. "Please. You don't understand what this place means to us," but my pleas echoed off their indifference. One of the men, a tall figure with an unforgiving glare, stepped closer. "We're here to end this. There are real problems in this city. You're just wasting everyone's time. As they sneered, I glanced back at Miss Thompson, her face paling under the duress. I felt a fierce wave of protectiveness rise in me. No, this place is helping those real problems. It's a lifeline for many. If you knew the stories, you'd think differently. What stories? Another man barked, crossing his arms over his chest like a fortress. The same old tales of broken dreams and forgotten lives? It's time for a fresh start, not a nostalgic waste of space. Somewhere within the chaos, a voice broke through, as soft yet resolute as a morning dawn. It was Miss Thompson, standing tall despite her years. You listen to me, she called, her hands trembling but her words steady. These stories bring people together. They offer comfort in times of despair. I lost my husband here, and instead of losing hope, I found love in this community. You can't just discard us. The men halted, momentarily struck by a different kind of weight. An unexpected vulnerability hung in the air like a trembling crescendo. But just as quickly as there was a pause, the frustration flared up again. Emotions don't pay the bills. One guy spat back, his voice heavy with contempt. I could feel the heat radiating from their anger, threatening to incinerate the hope we had reluctantly rekindled. Yet, something was changing within the crowd of onlookers, the very people we had initially shared our stories with. I noticed a young woman step forward, her expression fierce. I can't believe this. You think you're heroes, but what you're doing is cruel. This place has been our home. Your anger has no place here. As she spoke, others began to rally around Miss Thompson, a chain of solidarity slowly stitching itself together. It was a fragile web, but in that moment, it shimmered with potential. A few more voices joined hers, rising to challenge the negativity with tales of their own. I found my first job here, exclaimed a young man from the back, his voice piercing through the rising tensions. This center taught me skills I never thought I could earn. You think we're worthless? Just come to one of our classes. More people chimed in, igniting a flicker of strength amidst the discord. It was as though our stories, once woven together in the quiet corners of the center, became a tapestry so vibrant that it burst against the darkness, threatening to drown us out. But just as the tide began to turn, a sharp command echoed around us. You want a fight? The tall man called, his eyes darting like a hawk, surveying the new voices joining ours. You really think you can make a difference? You're just prolonging the inevitable. Fate had a cruel sense of timing, I thought. Just as our newfound solidarity seemed to form, a deep vein of fear ran through me. I could feel the weight of confrontation resurfacing, spinning towards something more significant and dangerous. With each moment of courage, I was also haunted by the panic that this could all come crashing down. We were clinging to our fragments of hope while a storm approached, ready to wipe it away. I stole a glance at Miss Thompson, her gnarled hands trembling with a mix of passion and fear, a mirror of my own emotions. In the midst of this chaos, the air became charged, and I sensed something unspeakable looming. There was more at stake than just our center, a secret buried deep within the threads of our community, one that could shatter everything. As the anger and stories collided, I caught a glimpse of a figure watching from afar, a woman shrouded in shadow, whose face held a familiarity that sent chills down my spine. She pulled away from the fold, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that felt crushing. I thought I knew her, perhaps from my childhood, a whisper of a lost bond intertwining with the heartbeat of this fight. But before I could piece it all together, the shouting surged again and I was lost once more in the fray. Now, not only was our battle hanging by a thread, so too was a truth I had never anticipated, threatening to unravel the very fabric of my heart in this community. The crowd continued to swell, tension rising like heat waves on a summer day. My heart thudded in my chest as voices entwined, some cries of desperation mingling with demands for change. Each story spilled forth, every word a thread that wove us tighter together against the fraying fears and the looming darkness that threatened to drown us. Yet, amidst the unity emerging from the chaos, I remained haunted by the woman in the shadows. She stood at the periphery, her presence a chilling echo from a past I could barely grasp. I took a step forward, my mind racing. Who was she? What memories did she carry? I swallowed the lump in my throat, feeling a new kind of dread rise within me, a fear that this confrontation was no longer just about the center, but about something much more personal, something I had yet to face. The voices of the crowd became a distant murmur as I struggled to pick apart the threads of recognition. You're wrong. Shouting voices pulled me back to the present. You can't value material things over the bonds we've built here. A chorus of agreement surged, spurring me forward. "Miss Thompson," I called, the name bursting from my lips, and she turned, her eyes igniting a flicker of warmth. It anchored me. "We need to tell them what this place has done for everyone. It's about more than just surviving. We've thrived because we're together." As I looked around, realizing how raised voices transformed into a battlefield of emotions, I searched for the woman again. But she had vanished, swallowed within the tumult, leaving only the lingering impression of something weighty, a memory wrapped in shadows, a wound waiting to resurface. The tall man at the forefront of the oppositional group glared at me, fury surging anew. "This is just noise." His voice sliced through the air like glass, and I steeled myself against the onslaught. "In the end, the world doesn't care about your stories. It needs results." I clenched my fists, battling against the tears threatening to spill. "And what results will you bring? You think tearing us apart is progress? You'd leave us empty, casting aside everything we've built." There was a tremor in my voice, a crack in the fragile hope I clung to. But before he could respond, a sudden transformation swept through the crowd as Ms. Thompson's voice rose above ours. "They're right. This isn't just about our stories, it's about our lives. It's a sanctuary from the storms that life throws at us, a place to hold on when everything else feels lost." A wave of acknowledgement rippled through the crowd, and I felt it like a pulse, the collective heartbeat of unity thumping strong against the chaos. But just as hope flourished, a new realization gripped me, colder than the flash of anger that had rattled our spirit. The woman had returned, but this time she wasn't alone. Two others stood with her, figures cloaked in a swirl of uncertainty. I could see their outlines more clearly now, the tension emanating like thunder in the distance. My heart skipped a beat as I recognized one of them, my sister, Jenna, a ghost of my past I thought buried along with resentment. "Why did you come back?" I called out, emotion raw and exposed, my voice cracking. The forced reunion clawed at long-buried memories, their resurgence like an aching wound ripped open. Jenna stepped forward, vulnerability flickering in her eyes. "I heard what was happening. I had need to talk to you." Her voice wavered on the edge of something deeper. A frown creased my brow, uncertainty amplifying within me. Could this hurt my cause when every moment felt critical? The air thickened with anticipation, the previous passion transforming palpably into a mix of hope and dread. The tall man scoffed. "What's this? A family squabble in the middle of a protest? You can't seriously believe this will change anything." But the contrast of our family bond, the tense echoes of a fractured past that refused to be ignored, loomed massive in the background. My chest tightened with conflicting emotions. Could I let my sister back in, especially now, when our community was on the brink of collapse? "Stay back," I warned Jenna, even as my heart tugged at the possibility of resolving a history long left untouched. The crowd's fervor hung in the balance, caught between the roar of our struggle and my tangled past. As the intensity grew, so too did the lethargy of the day's eerie brightness fade, casting shadows long and twisted around us. And that singular moment my heart beat louder than the chaos. Would I choose to face the ghosts of my past or hold fast to the soul of a community that had grown to cherish my existence? Hope flickered once more, but I felt it falter too. And deep within, the haunting question clung to my thoughts: what price would I pay to fight not just for a center but for the love buried beneath layers of heartache and betrayal? The sun dipped low, spilling golden light across the faces gathered, illuminating the tension hanging thick in the air. As if on cue, the energy shifted, and the cries for change grew louder, invigorated by the specter of my sister standing before me, a reminder of everything unresolved. I could feel eyes on us, not only from the crowd but also from the shadows where the woman had first appeared, the unyielding weight of her presence demanding attention. "Please, just listen to me," Jenna implored, her voice shaking as she reached out, a tentative bridge across the chasm that had separated us. "I need you to understand why I left. It wasn't just about you and me, it was about survival." You know that her words slashed through the air, unearthing memories I desperately wished to keep buried. I remembered the late nights when I would sit at the kitchen table, pouring out my dreams, all the while feeling her distance like a physical blow. She had been the one to crumble first, her pursuit of something more taking her away from home and into a world that I had believed was stealing her from me. Behind me, a murmur rippled through the crowd like a gentle breeze before a storm. I felt their anticipation, their frustration mingling with my own pain, a reminder that our struggle for the center was intertwined with the battles fought within ourselves. "Look, Jenna," I began, wanting to reach her but mystified by how her presence complicated everything. This isn't the time or the place for us to then when? She interrupted, a fire igniting within her. When we're too late? When everything we ever fought for is gone? I came back for you, for us, and for all of this. She gestured to the crowd, her voice rising above the din. We can't just let it burn when unity has become our lifeline. Her words hung heavy between us, yet they swirled with an undeniable truth. I stared into her eyes, each glance like a flashback unraveling. There was a dark layer of hurt beneath the shine, and the more I looked, the more I sensed the secret she carried, the pain that had driven her away and the need for redemption that had now pushed her back into my life. Emotionally wrung out, I stepped back, wrestling with the tempest inside. Do you even understand what's at stake here? I want to trust you, but how can I when you left without a word, and now you just show up? How do I fight with you pulling me back like this, because I'm not just drawing you back? She shot back, her voice trembling with urgency. I'm trying to show you there's still a way forward, an opportunity to reclaim what we had, but it starts with honesty. No more running, no more hiding. The crowd became a prayerful hush, captivated by the rawness of our exchange. I could feel the tension of a community holding its breath, fearing that our conflict might fracture their courage. And just as I contemplated the weight of their hopes against the fear of my past, the woman from the shadows stepped forward once more, her eyes piercing and deliberate. I asked, this your choice then? She asked, her voice low and steady, as though she had been waiting for this moment. To stand divided, even as you fight for unity. My heart pounded, and I could see glimpses of recognition in her gaze. There was pain and something deeper in understanding that tore at the frayed edges of my heart. Yet her presence shook the core of our conversation. Was this a fate pulling at the strings of my mind, or was she truly a messenger tangled in my journey? We can't afford to let fear hold us hostage, came Miss Thompson's voice, strong and firm, like a beacon cutting through the fog. Our bonds matter more than the wounds that threaten to tear us apart. What happened in the past cannot dictate our future. I felt her words resonate, an invitation to break free from the shackles of history and redefine what family meant in the face of adversity. Slowly, an ember of hope began to flicker in my chest, battling against the shadows of doubt that loomed large. But behind that flicker lurked a more sinister question: would embracing this hope come at a cost? Jenna, I pleaded. Softly, shifting focus back to my sister. I can't do this if I lose my footing here. I need to stand for this place, for everyone who's counted on it, on me. But if I open that door to the past, my voice trailed off. The weight clearly hung between us. Just then, the tall man from earlier surged forward, eyes blazing with fury. Enough! This isn't a therapy session, it's a rally for action. You blame your history, while we starve standing still. His words cut deep, rippling through the crowd, igniting a chorus of shouts in agreement. Stop! I shouted, desperation clawing at my heart. This is exactly what they want. To pit us against ourselves. Are we going to let them take everything we've built? And yet, there remained that question. Whose voice would ring loudest when the battle was over? My heart pounded in fearful anticipation as I balled my hands into fists, torn between the love I wanted to extend and the fight that lay ahead. Then the shadows shifted in the distance, and I caught sight of the woman glaring at me, something dark and knowing in her expression. Was it too late to combine the fragments of our lives, or was our failure already sewn into fate's tapestry? The air crackled, charged with impending decisions yet unmade, and the heaviness of it all pressed down like a storm ready to break. Would I choose to face the shadows, the ghosts, and the uncertainties of love, or would I turn them away, risking losing myself for the sake of a community that might not understand the sacrifices involved? In that instant, it felt like the world spun just for meth crowds' cries fading into the background noise, everything from the past colliding with an uncertain future, and I stood there, balancing on the precipice of choices that could undo everything I held dear. And in that moment of hesitation, a sudden shout emerged from the crowd, something I couldn't yet decipher, rising with an intensity that promised to reveal secrets wrapped in darkness. An unexpected change was coming, one that would either throw us all into chaos or peel back the layers to expose the heart of our fight. Look! Someone shouted, pointing toward the edge of the crowd where the shadows loomed. What's happening? I turned instinctively, my heart racing, as I glimpsed a figure emerging, a face I never thought I'd see again, one that sent waves of confusion and dread crashing over me. Was this the end of everything I had fought for, or the beginning of an unexpected revelation? The air grew thick with uncertainty, answers lying just out of reach, and the crossroads of my life stretched before me as I faced the unknown. As the crowd's attention shifted toward the emerging figure, my heart sank. I felt as if the ground beneath me had given way, leaving only the stark truth of past wounds laid bare. The closer the figure approached, the more I realized I had been living beneath a looming shadow, one whose journey had intertwined with mine in ways I had chosen to forget. "Mom?" I whispered, the sound barely escaping my lips as disbelief coursed through my veins. Standing there, hair unkempt and face gaunt, was the woman who had once been my greatest comfort and support, now appearing like a specter of the pain I had tried to escape. Eyes wide with a mix of sorrow and courage, she stepped into the light and the reality of our broken connection. "Sarah," her voice broke like glass. "I'm here." I came back, the shocked silence stretched, the vibrant energy of the crowd dimming as they processed the weight of her presence. It felt surreal, as if life had played a cruel trick. I had spent years interpreting her absence through the narrow lens of my pain, the stories I had built around the hollow space she left. But here she was, a living reminder of memories both cherished and agonizing. "Why now?" I managed, the words laced with bitterness. "After all this time, why appear when everything is falling apart?" "I had to find the right moment," she replied, her voice cracking. "When I heard about the struggles, about everything that you were fighting for, I knew I had to come back to face the truth." Her honesty rang painfully, a bittersweet melody competing with the upheaval around us. I thought of my sister, Jenna, still standing resolutely at my side, an anchor amidst the tumult of emotions roiling within me. The last time I'd seen my mother had been a farewell marred by broken promises, and now her sudden reappearance felt like the ocean, pulling at the sands of our past, toying with foundations that had already begun to shift. Jenna stepped forward, her voice low and concerned. "This isn't easy for any of us, but we have to find a way to talk. The world outside won't wait for our healing. Our people need us. They've always needed us, together." I scoffed, bitterness bubbling up like raw blood. "Is that even possible now? Look at us, we are fragments of lives torn apart. Is our together just a facade we can put on for the crowd?" "Perhaps it's not just the appearance of being together that matters," my mother interjected, her voice trembling yet resolute. "It's about facing the parts of ourselves we try to bury. Only by confronting those pieces can we truly reconcile." Something shifted in me, a glimmer of yearning for reconciliation fighting against the fortress of resentment I had built. Would their faith in healing extend to me, even after the wreckage left in the wake of our separation? As anger wrestled with the desire for connection, I turned to Jenna, desperate for guidance, but Jenna's gaze shifted, caught by something behind our mother. "Wait, who is that?" she whispered, her voice low but urgent. I turned, following her stare toward the shadows, where the other woman, the enigmatic figure who had watched our confrontation, now stepped closer, revealed under the streetlights as if she were woven into our tale. The intensity in her eyes was unyielding, something fierce and unspoken flaring as she approached our family reunion. "She knows something," I murmured, almost to myself, yet filled with an inexplicable urge to invite clarity. "What are you here to reveal?" "Only what you already fear," the woman said, her voice hardly louder than a whisper, yet carrying the weight of 1,000 storms. "The roots of your family tree run deeper than you acknowledge, and to break free from the past means confronting what you inherited." My heart raced as she spoke, her words raising questions that had long slumbered beneath the surface. How often had I pondered if our struggles stemmed not just from life's circumstances but from the legacy we carried? What truth had my mother spent decades hiding, and how would it shape the fragile bridges we were attempting to rebuild? The tension in the air expanded, the weight of impending revelations hanging thick. With each passing second, the crowd became a distant murmur, their urgent needs eclipsed by the shadows of my family's secrets beckoning me forward. "What do you mean inherited?" I challenged, pulling my shallow breath into a newfound resolve. "If you're saying we have some destiny to fulfill, I want no part in it unless I understand what binds our souls from freedom." "Listen," my mother urged, anguish flickering through her eyes. "You have to understand what brought us to this moment. The choices I made were never meant to harm you." I couldn't see a way out, her voice caught, and in that pause, I saw my own heart mirrored back. The years spent harboring anger suddenly tinged with sorrow, for a mother, a sister, and the woman who had lingered in the edges of our lives, knitting together the threads of a tapestry woven in both love and suffering. "Together, we can illuminate the darkness," Jenna encouraged softly, and with that, I felt an unexpected warmth, the comfort of connection beginning to seep through the cracks of my defenses. But the shadow still loomed, and I knew every moment of revelation bore the risk of deeper wounds to confront. As they awaited my response, each face edged by the effort of hope and redemption, I realized the journey was reaching its cliffs, where fresh choices could either sever our ties or bind them anew. Would I let the past define our future, or could I harness this pain to carve out a brighter path? The storm rumbled in the distance, echoing my heartbeat as the air thickened with unspoken truths. Let's find out what really connects us, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. But know that I won't back down from my fight for our people, no matter what. The crowd trembled with anticipation, the stakes higher than ever. As I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the revelations that lay ahead, the shadows whispered promises of hope and the threat of loss, but at that moment, I couldn't help but wonder if facing this new journey would require sacrifices far greater than any of us anticipated. And just as I stepped forward, a sudden crash echoed behind me. The crowd gasped, the air charged with new despair as I turned to see what had shaken the ground upon which we stood, listening intently to the steps we'd have to take, unraveling the tapestry that bound us all. The chaos erupted like fireworks against a midnight sky, fragments of sound and movement shattering the fragile bubble of connection we had briefly forged. My heart raced as I spun around, my senses heightened. From the shadows emerged figures cloaked in uncertainty, faces twisted in apprehension, and the lingering sense of earth and steel. The crash had been both a call to arms and a herald of an impending storm. Get back! I shouted, instinctively stepping in front of Jenna and my mother, protective instincts igniting within me. The crowd gasped, backs stiffening as panic flickered through the thrumming air. It was as if we had collectively inhaled a breath of dread. What new threat loomed at the fringes of this delicate reunion? Before I could fully grasp the scene, a man staggered from the darkness, his face illuminated momentarily by flickering streetlights. He clutched a makeshift weapon, a length of pipe glinting ominously in the dim light, eyes wild with pain. "They're coming! They're coming for us!" he shouted, his words spilling like spilled ink on parchment, sabotaging the delicate threads of hope we had started to weave. "Who's coming?" I yelled, desperation lacing my voice as the crowd murmured ominously. "What do you mean?" Yet the man could only gasp, falling to his knees as the urgency of survival eclipsed clarity. "The Wraiths! They want to take our homes again. Just like they did before." His words struck like a hammer to glass, revealing the fractures in our fragile community and the fears lurking beneath our united facade. I could feel the tension coiling tight, woven deep within the hearts surrounding me. I turned toward my mother and sister, uncertainty raging within my chest as the familiar chill of dread crept into my veins. In the years since her departure, I had learned to search for solace in the strength of my own voice, but who was I to speak now when darkness threatened to swallow us whole? "I have to go," I stated, breathless, a resolve folding around the shreds of fear. "If they're targeting our people, we can't just stand here." "No." My mother's voice was trembling yet firm, an echo of the woman I had longed to see in the moments of hardship. "You can't. I can't lose you again." But even as I felt that visceral fear from her, a flicker of resolve ignited in my gut, a flame bolstered by the pain of uncertainty that I could no longer ignore. I could feel Jenna's hand grasping mine, grounding me amidst the whirlwind of chaos. "We have to stand together. We've always protected each other. This time will be no different. You have to trust me," I urged, meeting my mother's gaze with defiance and unwavering certainty born from the pain of our past. "I'm not running. I'm confronting our fears together, and if it means I have to risk everything, so be it. I won't sit idle while our people suffer." As I stepped forward into the gathering storm, Jenna squeezed my hand tighter, a silent promise exchanged between us, the embodiment of solidarity. Somehow, even on the precipice of impending conflict, hope glimmered, fragile yet persistent. The faces around us flickered with uncertainty, but as I scanned the gathering of neighbors, allies, distant friends, I could feel a current building. The man on the ground began to rise, encouraged by our shared resolve. "They're coming for our homes, not just for us," he breathed, "but if we stand united, we can fight back together." We began to move, urgency driving us deeper into the complexities threading through our fractured community. The strength of numbers fueled our steps, fueled by something beyond fear, a choice to fight for what we believed in, to protect our sanctuary from the looming threat. As adrenaline coursed through me, I realized this moment was the culmination of our entwined destinies, where each act of solidarity could mend the thin walls that had kept us apart. And in that energy, in those fleeting moments of solidarity, Another truth began to unfurl the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the connection I had long been absent of could begin to return through fierce resilience. Then, as we converged upon the center of the community, a figure emerged from the edge, an unexpected presence that sent shockwaves through me. It was the woman from before, her gaze intense, searching among the sea of faces as if desperately wanting to add herself to our collective fate. "Wait. You don't understand," she called out, her voice slicing through the chaos. "There are secrets bound by blood that could change everything." Time froze, the churning world around us falling away, words lingering heavy in the air. The highlighted truth dimmed my breath, its implications sprawling before me like splintering branches. What did she mean by blood? What former ties had we overlooked that would fracture even our small grasp on what little unity we had found? Reveal it, I demanded, pushing past uncertainty and hurt, challenging her to share the weight of the secrets that had hovered on the edges of our story. But just as she opened her mouth to respond, a roar echoed behind her, followed by the rapid percussion of approaching footsteps. I wheeled around, dread curling my heart tighter as I braced myself for what was coming, not just in the physical world but in the revelations that could crush us all. Her words remained suspended in the air, tantalizingly out of reach, cliffhangers in a story still begging to be told, while a new storm brewed not just on the horizon, but within the very fabric of our existence. With each heartbeat, closer to chaos, I made a vow amidst the chaos, we would face the unknown together, no matter the darkness that awaited us. The roar grew louder, a cacophony of chaos mingling with the frantic beating of my heart. I spun around, adrenaline surging through my limbs as the frantic figures emerged from the shadows, silhouettes against the dim streetlights, the urgency of their approach mirroring the pounding in my chest. It seemed like an army, a wave of desperation cascading toward us. "Stay close," I shouted to Jenna and my mother, gripping their hands in a fierce hold as we took a step back. A moment of hesitation rippled through the crowd, the faces before me betraying a complex interplay of fear and courage. Around us, whispers of confusion echoed in the night, amplifying the frailty of our bond, the illusion of safety crumbling under the weight of impending conflict. The woman, I needed to know her name, to understand her connection to us, bore an expression that blended dread with determination. "They're not just here for the land," she shouted above the din, voice unwavering as eyes flickered anxiously between her and the encroaching wave. "They seek control, power over us, over our very souls." As the first figure broke free from the shadows, I instinctively tightened my grip, ready to defend those I loved. His face was obscured, illuminated only by the once welcoming light that now felt ominous. A sense of dread settled deep in my gut, rumors of wraiths swirling in my mind, a collective fear that was as tangible as the sweat that pooled at my brow. But then I saw Ita's single, unexpected glimmer of kindness. The man faltered slightly, and as Jenna and I steadied ourselves, I recognized something in his stance, a weariness that belied aggression. Perhaps, buried beneath layers of fear, there was still room for compassion. "Wait!" I shouted again, my voice rising as I stepped forward, breaking the barrier of hostility. "We don't want to fight. We can choose different paths." "Different paths?" The man scoffed, but there was a crack in his veneer, a flicker of doubt that seemed to plead for understanding rather than violence. "You think words can save your homes when blood has been spilled? When trust lies in tatters?" I felt Jenna's hand grip mine tighter, grounding me against the turmoil swirling around us. I took a breath, gathering my resolve. "Maybe we don't have to endure more violence," I said, meeting his gaze. "We can confront our fears together. If you have grievances, let's talk, not fight." There was a moment, a heartbeat suspended in time, where the tension in the air shifted, and the crowd seemed to hold its breath, waiting for something to snap, either the thread binding us together or the tension tearing us apart. "Your homes are vulnerable," the woman interjected, her eyes fierce yet pleading. "But our strengths aren't simply in fighting, they're in knowing our history. In understanding why both sides bleed." As she spoke, I sensed an unspoken bond woven through our community, one that echoed her words. My mother's grip slackened slightly when she recognized the urgency in the woman's plea, and I saw familiarity dawning on her face, a recognition of the shared burdens we all carried. "Your kin, they've made mistakes, but there's redemption in understanding. Let us share what binds us, not what pushes us apart." The man's face shimmered with uncertainty, and behind us, the crowd steadied, their trepidation thawing into cautious hope. "What do you know of blood?" He spat, voice laced with defiance. What secrets could possibly bring us to the table? Before the woman could respond, the ground trembled beneath us as figures emerged from the darkness, ghosts of our past returning to haunt us. Out of desperation, I swept my eyes over the crowd. I needed to find unity, to bridge the division growing wider between us. In that moment, another familiar face emerged from the throng, a neighbor, tears gleaming in her eyes, a child gripping her hand. "Please," she begged, voice thick with emotion. "We can't keep killing each other over land. Our people, we've lost enough." What shifted in that request was profound. Where once there had been animosity, now a seconds-long silence hung heavy with the weight of loss. I could see it in their eyes. Lost family, dreams shattered. Just as I thought we had come to a pivotal edge of resolution, a gasp rippled through the sea of faces as a hooded figure emerged from the shadows, swathed in darkness, their presence radiating danger. "Stop this charade!" they shouted, voice cold and piercing. "You think you can mend the fractures of the past with words? The wraiths have come to claim what's theirs, and you have no choice but to obey." The air thickened with palpable dread, and the promise of hope I fleetingly held seemed cruelly out of reach. I could hear Jenna's breath hitch beside me, a silent acknowledgement of the danger we faced. The stranger pointed directly at the woman, the accusation festering in the air between us. "You carry the blood of betrayal. You cannot expect them to side with you." Time stood still as I felt the world twist beneath my feet. The woman's expression shifted from defiance to something resembling betrayal. Had this been her secret? A family legacy steeped in the same carnage we sought to escape? In that moment of revelation, as the unnerving tension reached its zenith, I realized that beneath the drumming of my heart and the sheer magnitude of our collective fears, we stood at the precipice of an even greater conflict, one not just against the wraiths, but within ourselves. As the figure stepped further into the light, their identity emerged, and my breath caught in my throat. I hadn't just seen them in a bygone time, I knew them. The revelation shattered everything I thought I understood about our struggle, and just when the weight of truth threatened to crush us all, I understood we had reached a new turning point, one that would force us to confront both the past's wounds and the treacherous road ahead. I stood paralyzed, the weight of the truth pressing heavily on my chest as I stared at the hooded figure, whose face was now unmistakably familiar, a haunting visage from the remnants of my childhood nightmares. It was Ethan, a childhood friend turned ghost of the past, an echo of innocence wrapped in betrayal. The memories flooded back, long, lazy summer afternoons spent laughing and playing, bright visions intertwined with darker shadows of loss as our families fell apart. But now, as he emerged from the darkness, everything shifted. The crowd shifted uneasily, and fear rippled through them as Ethan loomed closer. "You think you can fight for your lives, but blood will always call back to its own. The wraiths are not here just for land, they're here to settle old scores." His words dripped like poison, each syllable igniting pain and confusion that left me feeling exposed. "Ethan," I shouted, forcing passion and disbelief into my voice. "You know what we're trying to do. We're trying to find that connection, to bring us all together. Why would you side with them?" My plea hung in the air, a fragile lifeline casting shadows in the chaos. He paused, eyes narrowing, almost a flicker of recognition amid his otherwise hardened gaze. "Because this has gone too far. You don't know how deep the rot runs, do you? You don't understand what it means to honor the blood that flows through your veins." Suddenly, the woman beside me, a figure of resilience, stepped forward, the tension in her posture faltering slightly. "Ethan, listen. We can create a different legacy. We can break the cycle of pain." Her voice rose above the din, catching the wavering voices of hope. "There are more of us who want to heal. Remember what brought us together," the crowd murmured, uncertainty threading through their emotions, inches away from despair yet nearly within reach of understanding. They were waiting for something more ideal, a spark to guide them through the haze of anger and fear. Slowly, Ethan's demeanor shifted, confusion danced across his features as he wrestled with the choices laid bare before him. "You think it's that simple? The histories have been written in blood. What chance do we have?" For a heartbeat, I realized we were standing on the edge of a new truth. The battles we fought were as much against ourselves as the enemies at our doorstep, tangled in disbelief and the scars of our histories. With the sudden intensity of conviction roaring within me, I lifted my chin defiantly, voice steady. "Then let's rewrite those histories. Let's choose a path that honors the love we shared, not the hate that tore us apart." The crowd surged around me, their spirits ignited by the urgency rippling forth, flames of hope flickering dangerously close to collapse. They didn't have time for division, they needed the power of unity, the love that existed within the cracks of our lives. The shadow of the past lingered still, but something within me had shifted. I recognized the complexities of betrayal and the need for healing, ready to face all the ghosts threading through my heart. The momentum of our shared goals shimmered beneath the chaos, waiting for the determination to emerge, and this was how it felt as I stepped closer to Ethan, driven by the weight of buried longing. Ethan, we both know what could be lost, but it doesn't have to end like this. Let's join together, not as rivals bound to blood, but as allies devoted to survival. The trembling echoes of our past bowed to the present. This idea of transformation started to blossom like a fragile leaf breaking free from the frost, but the look in his eyes shifted again, clouded by uncertainty and the shadows of decisions yet unmade. He hesitated, caught between anger and a dark yearning for connection. You think I can change everything? That we can unite despite everything that's happened? You have no idea what's at stake, Sarah. In that moment, a voice rose, UPA chorus of the community I had fought to protect, voices filled with emotion and fervor coming to life around us, each resonating with our collective pain and joy. We stand together, shouted Miss Thompson, leaning against the warmth of the shared spirit. We will not let our stories be written in blood any longer. We can be a community built on resilience and love, and just like that, their cries invited courage into the folds of uncertainty, sparks flying in the shadow of the unknown, uniting us in ways that challenged the very boundaries of our histories. It was now or never as I turned to Jenna, a fraction of warmth igniting within the chambers of our complex family bond. Don't you see? I pleaded, no longer just for myself but for everything we had fought to protect. We need each other now more than ever, even with our pasts. Jenna squeezed my hand tighter, eyes shimmering with fierce solidarity and vulnerability, a reflection of our intertwined journeys. Find a way, Sarah. Well, rise if we dare to believe. We're stronger together. With every heart surrounding me as witnesses, I gazed at Ethan once more. The atmosphere crackled like electricity, an open invitation to brave the uncertainty that could form as we stepped beyond fear and recognized the scars our blood had borne. Join us, Ethan. Let's change destiny together. Who can confront the wraiths, expose their darkness? Just take my hand to be part of something greater. He hesitated, wavering on that precipice of choice. Time hung between us, the shadows closing in and yet the embers of hope igniting all around. If you're willing to try, then let's unleash the force of this community, he said finally, taking a step forward and extending his hand. As our hands connected, the warmth spilling into a surreal sense of belonging. I could feel the tremor of fear beneath the surface, the haunting shadows layered with resolve. Before, the ground beneath us had felt fragile, but together, we drew collectively from the strength of every tether tying us into that destined fight. The wraiths would soon descend upon us, but it mattered not where we had come from. What mattered was the role we could play together. As we faced that formidable darkness, hand in hand as allies rather than adversaries, I knew we weren't just resisting fate, we were crafting a new future, one defined by compassion and love rather than hatred. United, the collective of hearts grew louder, rising above the impending storm, as we stepped into the fray. In that moment, the real fight had only just begun, but this time, we would rise like phoenixes drawn from the ashes, ready to reclaim the heart of our shared humanity, and perhaps, beneath the weight of everything lost, we would discover what it means to love fiercely and honestly, with every story woven back into us, creating a legacy of hope for generations to come. At that moment, I turned back to the crowd, faces shining bright with the promise of tomorrow. Letting out a breath I didn't know I was holding, I whispered, together, we will forge our own path.